Hello, and welcome back to another video. This time we are doing the same electrical power of the Boeing 737. However, we're gonna be doing it with the APU this time. And we also did a couple of things to do differently. That is, we had our flaps drooping a bit above the up position so as to see why the previous checks are important. First things first, battery goes on. APU, fire test. Now, in order to start with the APU, we need to do the APU fire test before we proceed with anything. In order to do the fire test, we have the overheat detection one. Make sure the master caution comes on. Clear it off. Fire warning. Make sure you hear the oral warning, the indications here, along with the master warning, and it cancels out. Okay, once this is done, extinguishers, we need to check for the extinguishers. All three must be green. Likewise on the other side. And now we can proceed with the APU startup. To start the APU, let's assume we have fuel on the left tank. We don't have any on the center, otherwise we would prefer to give the center tank, but it's okay. Fuel pump on and start. In real life, when you put it to on, the needle just goes off a bit, and that's when you start. But however, for some reason it's not being simulated here perfectly. So let's just wait for the APU start. Now, things I wanted to change here was the alternate flap master switch. Let's say we put it, no, that's something we'll check later. Next, let's say the hydraulics were on, the hydraulic pumps were on. I previously told that the electric hydraulic pumps must be off, but let's say now it's on, and we'll see how it affects the aircraft in here. So now you can see the flap position is 0, and however the flap position indicated is a bit above from the up position. So now when I power up the aircraft, the flap position moves back to up. That means the flaps would actually move back up. So if somebody's working there, for example, they would be affected by this. Now let's see. As you can see, the flaps just transited back to the up position. Now that's the reason why we make sure the hydraulic pumps are off before we put the electrical power on the aircraft. Secondly, I told something about the alternate flap master switch. Let's say if it's in the armed position. If this is the case, I have told earlier that it would electrically operate. So if I go down with the flap position moving, you see the flaps would start moving. Additionally, let's say I put this to on and put this to off, make sure it's off, pressurize the hydraulics, and then put the flaps. You will not see the flaps moving because the flap system is now in the alternate mode. So that's the reason why we check the following things before we power up the aircraft. So now let's put it back to normal. Now you'll see the flaps moving. And wipers, self-explanatory. You don't really want to run the wipers on the dry windshield. So these are the reasons why we checked the above items on the previous video. So for APU startup, there's nothing much. The only difference is that we put the battery power on, make sure the landing gear levers are down and all those things. And the only difference being doing the fire test before you start the APU. Once you start the APU, everything's okay. This is what it is supposed to be like. So that's it for today for now, and we'll see you on the preliminary pre-flight checks.